The Rover 75 is a car with a personality disorder. Is it a laid-back, easy-listening, pipe and slippers Rover 75? The hard-driving, death metal V8 monster that is the MG ZT? Or is it the wannabe Chinese Bentley sold as the MG7? Personality disorder or not, why was a car that received more investment than any Rover before it dropped like a hot brick by its parent company barely 12 months after it launched, while it was receiving glowing reviews? This is the Rover 75 story. For Rover, BMW's purchase in 1994 was like a gift from God. Instead of scrimping and scraping to get by on a meagre budget, Rover suddenly found they had BMW's open wallet to create the cars they knew they could. BMW made it clear that they trusted Rover and provided the money to make it happen. So what should Rover work on first? As Rover 200 and 400s were about to be launched, the cars they focused on were the Mini, Rover 600 and the aging Rover 800. Both the 600 and 800 were deeply reliant on Honda technology, something BMW are understandably keen to move away from. Rover kicked off 3 projects to replace both cars. The first was called Flagship, which in the Great British tradition was comically nicknamed Flash Pig. It would be an 800 replacement. Eric would be the new 800 Coupe, with Core replacing the 600. But soon Rover realised that not even BMW's deep pockets could finance 3 cars, so this was pared down to just the Core project, which was in hindsight awkwardly named ISIS. Not after the Islamic terror organisation, but after the Egyptian god. As for engines, Rover had a new V6 in the works, the 2-litre and 2.5-litre KV6, the 1.8-litre K-Series workhorse, and BMW's 2-litre diesel would round out the range. Rover created a rough design for the new car that played up the retro modern styling that Rover thought would sell well. Rover shouldn't just be a copy of BMW, they needed their own identity. Both companies believed that Rover should lean on their historic past, taking inspiration from cars like the Rover P5, something you could argue they'd already been doing with the Rover 800 restyle. But the new car would turn retro up to the max, like they were doing already with the new Mini. So a concept car was created along with clay models, and these were greenlit with little to no alterations by management or BMW. The styling department loved the faith that was placed in them. Rover was becoming a happier place to work. The ISIS project was renamed again to RD1 and moved into development. With the styling retro yet modern, the interior stylists got to work using styling cues from old Rovers. They were also looking to Jaguar, whose long-running XJ saloon had long been selling on walnut-veneered oldie-worldy English charm. The Rover's interior would make heavy use of wood, and instead of veneer it would be solid wood that would be part of the dashboard structure. But maybe Rover was going a little overboard with the retro theming, producing what some thought was an old-fashioned gentleman's club on wheels. This was confirmed with the suspension that was set up to be very soft and forgiving. Unshackled from Honda's wishbone suspension, Rover could finally choose their own setup. But they dithered on which to choose, which led to delays in the production date. BMW management eventually had to step in and pick a solution for them, the Z-axle arrangement used on the then current BMW 3 Series. It was around this time cracks started to show in the BMW-Rover relationship. BMW was getting concerned that Rover couldn't deliver an excellent vehicle on time. This soft, supple ride made Rover's body design an odd decision. They went out of their way to make the 75's body much stiffer than previous Rover cars to reduce body roll. This was a technique employed by BMW to great effect with their driver-orientated cars. Confusingly, Rover included a transmission tunnel. This is normally used for rear-wheel drive cars to hold the drivetrain, but the 75 was front-wheel drive. Rover insisted it was used to stiffen the body, but surely there were cheaper ways to do it than this. It led to rumours the Rover was using a cast-off BMW rear-wheel drive 5 Series body. Although Rover had evaluated using the tooling from an old BMW 5 Series plant in South Africa, these had amounted to nothing. As the car got closer to release, BMW and Rover started quibbling over more and more things. BMW were insistent on getting the details right, whereas Rover were less concerned and saw the changes as wasted money. But BMW's attention to detail had stood it in good stead in generating a reputation for bulletproof cars. Rover had had years of cost cutting, and getting out of that mindset would take it time. However, it would amount to delays in the release and angst between the English and German teams. BMW pushed the Rover 75 unveil forward at short notice, and although it went off well, it created rumours in the press that the car had been delayed because of quality issues, when there were no such problems. But all the positive work Rover and BMW had done to promote the car was torpedoed by the BMW CEO, Bernd Pichetsrieder. He was unhappy the British government was dragging their heels on funding for Longbridge renovation and gave the press his full frustration. Short-term actions are required for the long-term future of the Rover Group, he said. Talks are taking place with the British government about the whole problem. Implying the new Rover 75 may not be around much longer was the kiss of death even before the car had been launched. The words hit the Rover staff hard and morale sank. As one employee said, the reaction inside the company was simple: gobsmacked amazement followed rapidly by panic. Bernd, a first cousin once removed from Mini creator Sir Alec Isigonis, was instrumental in buying Rover in 1994, and he helped kill the deal in 1999. He wouldn't see out the year as BMW CEO, clearing the way for a swift change of heart about BMW's investment in Rover. After the press had printed their Rover in Crisis stories, they reviewed the new car, giving it high marks. The quiet cabin and smooth suspension in particular were praised, but fleet managers didn't know what to do with it. It was smaller than the BMW 5 Series and its competitors, but larger than cars in the 3 Series category. This was intentional. It was, after all, a replacement for both the Rover 600 and 800. Like it or not, cars were grouped together by size, and this odd duck wasn't easy to categorise. The Rover 75 style was retro modern, but to customers it came off as just old-fashioned. Rover wanted to establish a brand of traditional, comfortable cars, like the Jaguar, but it came off as pipe and slippers boring. The British car buying public weren't looking for this. They were watching Top Gear, and aspirational cars of this size were the BMW M5 and Audi RS6. Not a gentleman's club on wheels with squishy suspension, harking back to cars they'd never even heard of. It's easy to dismiss Rover's retro styling move as misguided, but it wasn't an altogether bad idea. The company's update of the Mini was proving that a retro-styled car could be a runaway hit. Customer sales were hard to find, and soon aerial photos of unsold cars reached the press. Rover tried to change tack by showing a prototype of the Rover 75 Sport, a sort of gentleman's club on wheels that sold Jaeger bombs, but by now BMW's patience with Rover was wearing thin. Rover continued to lose money, and the 75 hadn't been the hit they'd hoped it would be. In May 2000, BMW sold Rover for the nominal but insulting price of just £10. And for that, BMW agreed to give the new holding company Phoenix £500 million to keep Rover ticking over. BMW kept the Mini brand, which would go on to great things. Phoenix had to decide how it would make the company profitable with the cars it had. But before all of that, BMW wanted the Cowley factory where the Rover 75 was produced. Production was delayed while the line was moved up to Longbridge, and to the credit of Rover it was done in record time. Production quality at Longbridge would end up being superior than the already high quality at Cowley. Although sales hadn't met BMW's expectations, the 75 was now the jewel in MG Rover's crown and was selling respectably. So, as the estate version had already been developed, it seemed natural to put this into production first. The car was launched in 2001 as the 75 Tourer. In 2002, a long wheelbase version was sold, producing a car more similar in length to the Rover 800. The next move was to go all in on a faster 75 Sport concept. In fact, MG Rover was trying to turn all of its existing models into hotter versions. The 25 became the ZR, the 45 the ZS, and the MGF the MGTF. Suddenly, the pipe and slippers Rover 75 had to become a BMW M5 competitor. The suspension was reworked to give a sporty ride, the exterior was tweaked, and the interior was updated from its retro wooden styling to something more mean and sporty. Oddly enough, despite the brakes being uprated, the engines weren't any faster. These new models, the ZT and ZTT, would be released in 2003 and would be sold alongside the existing, more pedestrian Rover 75. To add more power, a Ford 4.6 litre V8 petrol model was added, making the car rear-wheel drive for the first time. That over-engineered transmission tunnel came in handy after all. This beast of an engine, seen in the US in the F-150 and many other cars, took the car from 0 to 60 in 6.2 seconds and on to 155 miles an hour. At the same time, MG Rover looked to expand sales into new countries like Mexico. In 2004, the cars got a light restyling to make them look more modern, but the changes weren't a hit with customers. MG Rover needed more funds to continue, so reached out to the Shanghai Automotive Industry Corporation, or SAIC, to create a joint venture. A tentative agreement was made for SAIC to take a 70% stake in the company for a £1 billion investment. To showcase what could be produced with such a deal, MG Rover released the Rover 75 based coupe design, but with no money left, this was little more than a fiberglass mock-up. The agreement wasn't ratified by the Chinese government, which left MG Rover with nowhere to go. All they got from SAIC was a licensing deal to build Rover 25 and 75s in China. But this wasn't enough to save the company, and MG Rover went into administration in April 2005 with a loss of 6,000 jobs. The assets of the company were purchased by Chinese Nanjing Automobile Group for £53 million. So, SAIC had the rights to create the 75, but Nanjing had also bought the 75. What followed was a 75 face-off between the two Chinese companies to see who could launch their car first. SAIC was out of the gates first in 2006 with their Roewe 750, with the same 1.8 litre and 2.5 litre petrol engines from the 75. Nanjing's MG7 followed in 2007. So, two car companies sold essentially the same car in China, probably confusing a lot of Chinese customers. Thankfully, SAIC purchased Nanjing Automotive in 2007, meaning the car was sold by only one company. Production continued until 2016, where it was replaced with the Roewe i6. Between the UK and China, over 300,000 Rover 75s were sold in 17 years. Quite an achievement when the car was essentially hung out to dry just after it was launched. Nanjing still owns the MG name and still sells cars around the world with the MG badge on them. If you like these videos and want to get early access to new videos or get shoutouts like Jeff King and Joe Rossi, consider supporting me using the Patreon link below, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button to get notified of new videos. Let me know your experiences of the Rover 75 in the comments below. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.